The United Kingdom is in a state of crisis. In just 6 years, it has seen 5 different prime ministers, and its economy is plummeting. The British pound is at its lowest point against the dollar since 1985, and the country is facing a long recession. The standard of living is declining at a rapid rate, with inflation reaching almost 10%. To make matters worse, Scotland is on the verge of declaring independence, which could lead to Northern Ireland also seeking independence and knocking the UK out of the top 10 largest economies. Just over 100 years ago, the United Kingdom was a global superpower, with colonies spanning from New Zealand to India, the Middle East, Africa, and Canada. At its peak in 1929, the British Empire controlled around a quarter of the world's land, and the British pound was the default global currency. London was the political and financial capital of the world, and was home to the largest companies, such as East India Company, which had its own military of over 200,000 professional soldiers. The United Kingdom has rapidly declined in the past 100 years, losing over 90% of its territories. The value of the British pound is constantly decreasing, and the economy is no longer even in the top 5 largest economies in the world. In fact, its former colony India has overtaken the UK and is now the world's 5th largest economy by GDP. If the UK continues on its current path, it is possible that it may not even exist in the next decade, with only England remaining. It is even possible that London could declare independence. The Bank of England is desperately trying to lower interest rates to prevent the economy from falling further, but high inflation has forced them to raise rates to 3.5%, the highest in 14 years. Higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive, which means companies will borrow less, leading to lower wages, job cuts, and the cancellation of long-term projects that do not generate enough revenue. In the near future, the focus will be on cutting expenses and generating cash. The decline in purchasing power is expected to be so severe that it will erase the past 8 years of economic growth, as wages fail to keep up with inflation and higher interest rates. It will be as if the past 8 years of progress never happened. In times of economic turmoil, it is important to make it easier for businesses to operate. When people see that it is more affordable and easier to do business in a particular country, they will pack up and move there. This is why tax havens exist. No one wants to pay taxes. When Ireland lowered its corporate tax to 12.5%, many companies immediately relocated there. As a result, Ireland's GDP per capita is now twice that of the United Kingdom. Dubai also lowered its taxes and built the necessary infrastructure for businesses, and within 30 years, it had attracted the wealthiest people in the world. However, the United Kingdom is doing the exact opposite by raising taxes. The government is in such dire straits that it is unable to even fulfill its basic responsibilities. Raising taxes is the worst thing that could be done at this point. Higher corporate taxes will drive away corporations, leading to fewer jobs, higher unemployment, and fewer people paying taxes. Corporations will not simply absorb this burden. They will find ways to avoid these taxes by moving their headquarters or using other financial strategies, but ultimately, they will pass the cost on to their customers. This means that if you raise taxes to combat inflation, you will only end up causing inflation to increase. While the government may see some short-term benefits from raising taxes, in the long run, it will actually lose money. This is not to say that taxes are always bad, but in a time of recession when businesses are struggling, taxes should not be raised. It is clear that the UK government is desperate and has no other options left but to try to extract more money from those who are still able to make some income. The government has become so large, ineffective, and incompetent that it cannot even redirect funds from certain projects to others. This demonstrates just how dire the situation has become. Their best option is to cut most of their spending, which would prevent the need to increase taxes so much. It will, however, bring the economy into a deeper recession with the lack of spending from Big Brother. Many are fearful of a recession, yet it is the natural way for the economy to clean out the terrible businesses, so resources can be properly allocated. A recession is like rest for the economy after years of economic activity, which will be a blessing in disguise. Furthermore, the crisis is expected to lead to a 9% decline in home prices by next year, similar to the drop seen in 2008. Deflation has a compound effect, as people tend to wait for prices to reach their lowest point before making purchases. When home prices start to fall, people hold off on buying in the hope of getting a better deal. This 9% decline could significantly decrease demand, causing the drop in prices to double or even triple, resulting in another housing crash within the next year or two. This would only further damage the already struggling economy of the UK. In 2002, the average home price was slightly over £93,000, while the average wage was around £19,000. Fast forward to 2022, and home prices have risen by 300%, while the average wage has only increased to £26,000. This represents only a 50% increase in wages. It has never been so expensive for the average person to buy a house in the UK. The housing market in the UK has become a giant bubble that could burst at any moment, bringing the rest of the economy to its knees. The current crisis could easily be the catalyst for this bubble to finally burst. This is just a glimpse of what could potentially happen in the future. It could wipe out the life savings of many people, especially those who took out mortgages, and will see the value of their homes plummet before their eyes. Combined with rising fuel and food costs, this creates the perfect recipe for economic turmoil. It is no surprise that Scotland wants to leave the UK. In the Brexit vote, Britain narrowly voted to leave the EU by a margin of 51.9%. This was such shocking news that Prime Minister David Cameron resigned, as Britain has little hope of growing on its own in the 21st century without the EU. Britain is no longer the global superpower it once was. That role has been taken over by its former colony, the US. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.